China is going through a completely bonkers situation right now. They're calling it Airpocolypse. A Chinese city called Harbin is having crazy, crazy smog. We're going to show you some video right now and understand this is smog caused by pollution, not fog. Let's take a look. Okay, so again, that is smog, not fog. That is actual pollution. Just to put some of this in perspective, Harbin is home to 11 million people, which is about the size of New York City. Their air quality index score was a 500. They tell us that anything over 300 is dangerous to humans. New York City's on an average day is about 50. Wow. I mean, this is it hard to imagine that humans are putting that kind of stuff in the air, isn't it?
Awful, yeah. But apparently, like, the States went through, a similar situation at the turn of the Industrial Revolution, and I think that, like, China definitely needs to figure it out, because 500 sounds awful.
I mean, it's literally off the charts.
Well, I think when you look at these, it's Max, what you're saying is that China does need a wake-up call for environmental policies. And so my hope when you start to see images like this is that the rest of the world turns their attention, and maybe it's a kick in the butt to the Chinese government to take care of it. We saw in London the same thing. In the 1950s, there was the Great Smog, and that led to the Clean Air Act. So hopefully this is an indication that this is going to also kind of turn things around.
Yeah.
That's my hope.
And I mean, we had it right here in LA, and now the air quality is a lot better than it used to be. But it's part of this, though, that China's just getting to the point in their economy where we were way back when. So it's it's almost disingenuous for us to tell them to clean it up, because they're just doing what we did a little bit later, right? I mean, is it sort of unfair to now that we've cleaned ourselves up because our economy's past that point?
Well, that's a lot of smog, though, and they're adding so many cars onto the roads at all the times. I mean, it's just there has to be a tipping point for it, and and when you start to see what's happening with climate change and this extreme weather that we're seeing everywhere, there needs to be this wake up from all the countries, especially.
Yeah, and I think that today, just because of how easy and free flowing information is around the world, like, I think that they should learn from our mistakes. Like, they shouldn't. That's not an excuse that they should just, like, deal with a 500 level air quality. It's horrible.
Right. But isn't that one of those things where, like, when we all get together to talk about the environment, the United States always wants to cap things lower because our economy is different now, and the nations that are blowing up right now, like China and India, they're like, well, we can't because we're trying to get.
So you're saying it's like the factories of the United States put in China?
Sort of. Well, I guess at some level.
But if we're all connected, I mean, if our air is all connected from this thing, we have to eventually. And they say that we can still see soot here that comes from China too. So, or certainly what happened in Japan with Fukushima. Now we're seeing the same results of that here. So we have to be able to police some of that at some point.
So actually, the Japan thing's totally sidebar, but we're literally seeing radioactive water now coming to our shore. So that should show people that we're kind of connected.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So just to explain the situation a little bit more, China gives free heating to the people in the north using these coal boilers, and that's why this is all happening in the north of China and not in the south. This was making me think, just on a personal level for our myopic little lives, that I go to, like, Trader Joe's here in West Hollywood, and they don't give bags anymore, or you have to pay 10 cents for a paper bag. There's no plastic or anything like that, and you feel like you're doing something good. But then when you see this, do you realize that actually you're just doing it for yourself, and that it's not that you're really, like, the little bag that you would have taken out of Trader Joe's actually isn't saving anybody, but it's sort of making.
You have to be hopeful that it's all making an impact. I mean, that's the whole thing, is that we're in such a dangerous place, I think, with climate change and this extreme weather that we're seeing, that we cannot sort of be defeatist about it, right? And so every step that you do, I think, does matter. And so that little bag does help out. When you look at countries like Rwanda that banned plastic bags, that country has transformed itself. You don't see any trash on the streets anymore. So it can work, but when you look at what's happening in China with the smog, it's absolutely terrible.
Yeah. Even if it doesn't specifically work with our little bags and the little things that we can do here in recycling and that kind of stuff, is there something that just personally is good, like taking sort of a personal responsibility for what you put into the world, or am I being very spiritually deep?
It's, again, like, I think it's not helpful in any way to have a defeatist mentality about it, and to remember that little shifts add up to one big shift, and to vote with your wallet whenever you can when you're checking out. I mean, whether or not you choose a bag at checkout, like, obviously our diets, have a large say in the health of the environment. So there's like little things that we could do, but yeah, I mean, just because 11 million people are drowning in smog, like we can still do our part over here.
Yeah. Do you guys think we're ever going to fight a war over the environment? Like if these things keep getting worse, and because we're so connected right now, and if China, let's say, doesn't do anything, and this keeps getting worse, and the smog keeps coming to us, and radioactive water is coming to our west coast, that actually we could end up fighting a true war to sort of control resources and how countries put stuff.
I think it's already happening. I mean, when you look at what happened in Africa, Lake Chad in the 70s was one of the largest lakes in Africa, and now it's almost gone. And those climate refugees moved into Darfur, which then created what happened in South Sudan. So, I mean, it's happening right now. It's going to get worse, I think, especially in the Nile and the valley there, and in the agricultural belt. I think what's scary is that you probably are going to see it in the United States, where people are fighting, states are fighting over resources and who has access to certain rivers. So, I don't want to be an alarmist about it, but I'm worried about it. And
I want a prediction. Which two states are going to be the first to fight in a war? What's that going to be?
Probably California, us, and we'll go against. It'll be like LA versus Las Vegas. That's how it'll kind of be.
Well, it's going to be something involving fracking, right? Because they're going to frack from one state into another, and then just the whole state's going to explode. And then,
oh my God.
Yeah, but that's a whole other topic. Hey guys, don't forget the Rubin Report's brought to you by Coupaw.com. They've got up to 75% off pet treats, toys, and more. And if you use code RR, you can get another 20% off. That's a lot off. There is a link in the description right down below. Code RR, 20% off. Make your pet happy.